If something is refurbished, does that mean it's truly awful? We're going to get into that this week on Fire Footwear. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Fire Footwear. As always, this is your host, Matt Freites. I'm so glad that you are here, and I hope that this finds you well. Last week, we talked about the idea of reimagined because Nike and Jordan Brand more specifically is going to dive a lot deeper into the concept of reimagined. They've already done the Jordan 1 Lost and Found. We've already seen the Jordan 3 reimagined. We know that the Jordan 4 and the Jordan 1 Royal Toe are going to be right around the corner. And so last time we talked about shoes that I thought would be really fun if Nike and Jordan Brand gave it the reimagined treatment in a true reimagined fashion. And the impetus of that episode was because I was thinking about taking reimagined to another level. What would happen if they put more of a shine on it instead of just giving us recycled materials or just quote-unquote reimagined materials? What if they took a shoe that was very popular in sneaker lore and they actually basically redid the whole thing and gave us a more luxury and premium experience? And one of the things that I think is triggered whenever you hear that is people are married to the idea of the OG. And I think that for the most part, sneaker culture is married to a lot of different concepts that don't necessarily align with what we are complaining about. If you were to ask your average sneakerhead what the worst thing about sneaker culture is today, I guarantee you probably 8 out of every 10 people that you asked the question to would probably say that there aren't enough shoes to go around and that accessibility is one of the biggest problems in the culture. Nike is, of course, trying to combat that in as many ways as possible. They're trying to have more stock available. They're obviously saturating the market by giving us more shoes to choose from. But they have done something recently that has kind of caught the attention of sneaker culture and not necessarily in a positive way. I stumbled upon this the other day in some of my research for the episode. And what Nike has done over the last year or so, I would call it a year because I think that I saw the first inklings of this earlier this year, maybe even late last year. And I've seen some of it at the Nike outlets that I frequent. And Nike has come out with what they are calling their refurbished series. Now we're going from reimagined to refurbished. Most of the time, we think of a refurbished good as something in the electronic era. And I'm talking about a computer, a camera, a phone. We see this a lot. As a matter of fact, some of the lenses that I purchased for the camera that I'm recording on right now were refurbished because they were much cheaper than buying it brand new out of the box. I think for most people, the connotation of refurbished is a fairly decent one. I think most people think of refurbished as it was returned, it maybe even was slightly damaged, and it was repaired. For an electronic item, I think that there is a more tangible element to something being refurbished because we can see something broken. An electronic good does not work anymore for one reason or another. It gets sent out, it gets shipped back, and it is fixed and functioning once again. We've all probably done this with some piece of technology in our home, and we may even be using a piece of technology that's refurbished right now. I think the concept of refurbished for sneakers means something a little bit different to people. One of the things I have noticed is the idea is very negative amongst most of the sneaker space because I believe the connotation as refurbished in the sneaker world means that it's second grade. It's B or even C grade. Refurbished is usually something that is returned and put back on the shelves for sale after some type of a QC mock-up. In sneakers, a lot of the shoes that are refurbished are most likely purchased and returned. Nike has a very excellent return policy. I'm sure they get a lot of shoes back because I know that a lot of people will buy something, have buyer's remorse, and send it back and get their full refund. So what do you think Nike does with all of these shoes? They have to do something with them. And up until now, I'm not really sure what they've done. But what they've decided to do going forward is to give us another chance at getting a shoe. It's just now considered a refurbished shoe, and they're giving it to us for a highly discounted price compared to retail price. There are limitations to this, of course, because not every size is going to be available. Not every popular colorway is going to be available. As a matter of fact, I just checked out the Refurbished website the other day, and most of them are general release shoes or even running shoes or basketball shoes. You're not going to see a lot of hype on that site, and I think that's kind of the intention. I don't believe that the idea was, well, we're going to refurbish a lot of Travis Scotts or we're going to refurbish a lot of J Balvin's and we're going to throw those up on the website and give people the opportunity to buy a shoe that they already missed out on. The refurbished series actually does fix somewhat of a problem, and it fixes a problem for people who are not necessarily looking for the hype shoes. It fixes a problem or potentially alleviates a problem for somebody who is just looking for a specific shoe that they have wanted and just haven't been able to obtain. And maybe they're strapped for cash, and this is their way to get something that is basically brand new at a discounted price. And I think in that regard, Nike is doing a pretty decent job at trying to give us more accessibility. Now, as sneaker enthusiasts, most of us think of dead stock as sort of the king of the mountain as it relates to quality in sneaker culture. StockX, GOAT, eBay, most of these sites are selling dead stock shoes at very, very high prices because that's what the market is dictating. But the refurbished idea and the connotation that we in sneaker culture are giving it, I think, is a little bit misguided. Selling used shoes is not a concept that is foreign in sneaker culture. As a matter of fact, you can go just about anywhere and search for used Jordans, used Dunks, whatever, and you're going to find a lot of hits. Some of them are going to be suspect. There are a lot of people that are trying to sell reps as retail, which you should never do because it is really scum of the earth behavior. Hard stop. You're never, ever going to convince me otherwise. But you're also going to find a lot of people who maybe had a shoe for one reason or another and are just not willing to keep it for a long time because maybe it just doesn't fit with their aesthetic anymore. Sometimes we buy a shoe and we wear it for a bit and we sort of outgrow it. I think that happens. Our rotation is always rotating, for lack of a better term. And if you're like me and you have enough of them that you can rotate through a lot of sneakers, sometimes a shoe just gets lost in the shuffle and you're not giving it the kind of love that I think you intended to when you first purchased it. That doesn't mean that it can't go to a good home. Many of us will go on the secondary market to try to sell used shoes. I've done it plenty of times, and a lot of people are willing to buy a used shoe as long as it's in workable condition. Most of the time, the shoes that I sell have only been worn 2, 3, maybe 4 times. They've been cleaned. They're in perfect condition. They come with all of the aesthetics, all of the accoutrement, if you will. And why would somebody not want to buy that? For the refurbished shoes, I think Nike is trying to do something like this, but have a little bit more control over it. Instead of buying a used shoe that maybe is higher priced or marked up because you're trying to sell a used shoe of something that is super, super hype, they are trying to sell us something that is discounted. So in that regard, I think they're actually doing a good thing. And I think we as sneaker culture or we as sneaker enthusiasts should be happy about this because very rarely do these sneaker companies actually give us something to celebrate. And I understand where you're coming from. You see something as refurbished and you're thinking to yourself, Nike is trying to sell us the defects. But sometimes the defects looks just as good as any shoe that you buy on release day. As a matter of fact, some of us on release day are buying shoes and the quality that we're getting is really subpar. I can give you an example. When I hit on the shock drop of the Jordan 11 Cool Grays, I was very excited. My first ever pair of Jordan 11s. And when I got them in hand and I put a black light over them, the QC issues were awful. Now, I got these directly from the Sneakers app. So this is not coming from some secondary website that I don't know anything about. This is from Nike directly. And the quality, quite frankly, was pretty poor. I've seen better quality on replica shoes, which is really, really sad because the connotation of reps is that they are less quality than retail. That's not always the case. And so I was not willing to keep these shoes, so I didn't even try them on because I knew that I wanted to sell them to somebody else. And you know what? Somebody else bought them. And that's kind of the way that it goes. I have not actually been able to purchase a refurbished shoe yet. I've seen a couple of them at Nike outlets, and from everything that I can gather by just doing a cursory glance at it, it doesn't seem inferior to any of the other shoes that they have at the Nike outlet. As a matter of fact, the Nike outlets have a lot of heat in them lately, and if you compare what the refurbished series is trying to do compared to what you see at the Nike outlets of shoes that are 100% retail, there's not really much of a difference outside of the presentation. And that, I think, is what's throwing a lot of people off. They're seeing Nike as trying to pull the wool over our eyes and giving us something that is secondary to what they are trying to sell us or already selling us on release day. And I think that this is a little bit misguided. I think that it's misunderstood. And I think that we need to be a little bit more open-minded to this because we can't in one hand complain about the fact that there are not enough shoes to go around, that Nike's giving us crap silhouettes, they're giving us crap colorways. And then on the other side, say that the Refurbished series, which is something that Nike is trying to do to appease a section of sneaker culture, and say that that's bad because it's giving us C-grade stuff. You can't have it both ways. We should be just happy with what we have, happy with what's in our closet right now, and happy with what we are able to get. It's not always easy. The sneaker game is not meant to be rigged. It is not meant to be won handily. It's just part of the game. Many of the things that take place over the course of releases, bots, things like that, they're frustrating, but they're just part of the game. They're part of what comes with sneaker culture now. And we just kind of have to live with that. We have to live with the things that we don't like about sneaker culture because that's just the way that it is. But you have to applaud these companies for trying to do something outside the box that's giving us more opportunities to cop shoes that we maybe want. Is it perfect? No, but nothing in sneaker culture is perfect. The Reimagined series is not perfect. The Refurbished series is not perfect. Nothing is perfect, but I think what we should do is give Nike some credit for doing a good thing and thinking of the consumer first. I think in the end, the Refurbished series and what they're attempting to do is a good thing. And I think ultimately this maybe signals a turning point that perhaps these companies, Nike specifically in this case, are thinking about us first. Maybe they're turning a little bit over to the side of, hey, maybe we should look into what makes these sneaker people happy. There are a lot of people in sneaker culture that will never be happy. They just never will. It doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter how many shoes they cop. They'll never be happy. They could cop 26 shoes in a row on the sneakers app, and that one time they'll complain that there isn't enough. You're just never going to please everybody. But I think more attempts like this to do something that is giving us more opportunities to cop the shoes that we want is a good thing. And I think that we need to, in kind, just be a little bit more patient with these companies. Sure, there's something that's always going to frustrate us, but in the end, it's just shoes, fam. There's nothing that's that serious about what we're doing. So I applaud Nike for this. I think that you need to rethink a little bit about what you feel about this because I think people are being a little bit too negative about it. And now, let's get to the release of the week. Release of the week, where I like to present you a shoe that has caught my eye. It's not always hype, rarely is it. It's just something that I think that you should know about because there are a lot of releases every single week. It's hard to keep up with them. So this week we are going to Concepts. Concepts is very, very well known for their Blue Lobster, Orange Lobster, all the lobster series that they've come out with in the Nike Dunk world. But this time, for the second week in a row, we are going to highlight a New Balance shoe, and that is the C-Note 998 from New Balance. Interestingly enough, Concepts came out with this a handful of years ago. I believe it was 2013. And now they are reissuing this on October 5th. It will probably have released by the time this video comes out. It's a beautiful shoe. The 998 is actually a really good New Balance silhouette. The neutral tones on it, it's very muted. It's very classy. It's clean. It's awesome. And you should definitely check it out. I think a lot of people are buying New Balances now because of Taylor Swift, and that's a whole nother episode. But New Balances in general, I've been over this many times. They have comfort, they have style, they have durability, and I think they check a lot of boxes for people that are looking for utility and comfort. So definitely check out a pair of those. It doesn't have to be this one, but it should be another pair of New Balance 998. So what do you think about Nike Refurbished? Is it something that you see as a negative, or have you been a beneficiary of this program? Get in touch with the show. @Fire Footwear on Instagram is the handle. You can search the show, Fire Footwear, a sneaker podcast, on Facebook. We are on YouTube as of right now, and if you are listening in the podcasting space and you want to watch on YouTube, Fire Footwear, a sneaker channel, make sure to hit like and subscribe. And again, if you're listening in the audio space, no matter what app that you are using, especially Apple and Spotify, do not forget to hit follow and rate on whatever app is applicable. It's always good. It keeps the channel growing, and I'm very, very happy for that. If you want to find us on TikTok, @Fire Footwear Pod is the handle there. Do not forget to support the Matty Ice Media Network for all the other podcasts that we have, including this one, Iceman and Coach, Political Football. I hope this finds you well. I hope this finds you safe. I'm thankful that you are here, and I will talk to you next time, fam. This is Fire Footwear.